Okay.
I'm going to hand it over to you, Lavin.
Awesome, thank you. New shopper journeys. Well, we all know that e-commerce is booming. The Indian market, I believe, was 46 billion in e-commerce in 2020, which is going to go to about, I think, about 120 billion odd, as per the latest data that VAIBHAV shared with me, in about 4 or 5 years. So e-commerce is rising. So are consumer behaviors changing. We're seeing that all of us are becoming a lot more demanding in our ask. We want products cheaper, faster, easier payments, cashbacks, a whole bunch of things on top of our e-commerce journey. So, yeah, with that, I have a great panel here today. But Flipkart, the largest e-commerce player in India, they're going to share some tidbits of information. I have VARUN from Kent. He's a brand. I mean, they run one of India's largest water purifiers. DHIRAJ from mFilterit and PRASAD from Logicserve, one of the large agencies of the country. So, well, we're just going to get into a quick discussion of how are things changing. What are you guys seeing as a big shift? And actually, I've broken this down into 4 or 5 different core subjects that I want to have the audience go away with. How has media driven a shift to some of this? How has the payment models driven a shift? What about logistics and delivery? A little bit about data. And then has the government sort of in some shape or form encouraged, and what are the movements around that? So with that said, let's dive into the media channels first. I mean, what do you guys, I'll let Prasad, why don't you kick it off?
I think very interesting one. I've been listening to almost every session here, and there are a lot of words are getting talked about. And I think whatever we say today is also very catalyst in what consumers are changing. Right? There is an interesting thing which got talked today in the morning, and it really got me thinking when Arjun said that all marketers think that they drag consumers in future. Okay, but it's ulta. Okay, the consumers drag marketeers into the future. Okay, having said so, whenever you sort of when new is being talked about, it's about change, right? And many sessions that we heard is about consumer has changed. Any time COVID has been doing this, that, and all. Okay, but if you go to the basics of Kotler, okay, where it talks about the total value of a consumer is equal benefit minus cost, right? And it has to be positive. And I think I was counting how many times on this stage itself people talk about consumer value exchange. Okay, so what are the things that we talking about what are the things which actually consumer has not changed. Okay, that's what I think. Okay, but consumer journeys have changed, and what has happened in the 4 buckets that I was talking about is basically how and where we reach. Okay, the different media formats, everything gets changed. Today I learned a new things. Okay, I was the addressability. Okay, something really got me thinking. Okay, so there are in the last 2 years so many avenues of we are going to talk about data, we are going to talk about different channels. So that has changed a lot, and that is I think is a important factor. Then another one is actually how do we how the marketeers are engaging with it. Okay, there are I think we have a lot of partners there who do a lot of AI, bot, chat, all that, right? So there are all new things which are happening. And interestingly, I think where to buy. Okay, there are so many D2C marketplaces, super apps. Okay, then how do you deliver? Okay, I was also reading when BOPIS and BOPAC, buy online and pick in store, and buy online and pick up at curb. Okay, so all these things are changing. Talking about the media. Okay, so, I mean, you had an excellent presentation today in the morning with non-standard formats. Okay, so all these formats, channels, audiences, data, that's definitely has changed, and because of that, I think the enablers have changed for a consumer to, adapt to, or rather, they have forced us to adapt us to a new consumer cycle that we are
Sure.
looking for.
Got it. Awesome. Dheeraj, your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think not only has the media channel mix changed, e-commerce has forced people to understand how are consumers searching for products. Gone are the days when people used to search on Google, and now a lot of intent-based search happens on e-commerce platforms. If you're searching for an air conditioner, you probably don't begin your journey on Google search now anymore. You go to a Amazon or a Flipkart and begin your journey, which means that how are your products ranking on Amazon and Flipkart are actually probably more important for a lot of brands than maybe how they're ranking on Google search now. And a lot of digital marketers who have been brought up on SEO, SEM strategies on Google search now need to adapt to SEO, SEM strategies on Amazon and Flipkart, right? And Amazon, Flipkart also keep changing their algorithms, just like Google, and they keep bringing a pain for digital marketers in terms of adapting. But I think that's what is the challenge for digital marketers today in the media space. How are you ranking versus your competition? What are the keywords where you are ranking high, low versus your competition? Those are extremely important metrics to track, and something which is important for digital marketers to be part of this shopping journey.
Okay, awesome. Varun, your thoughts on the media side of things?
So yeah, as Dheeraj said, the journey now starts on e-commerce platforms, not on Google. And as a brand, we now see there's a significant difference in number of branded keyword searches on Amazon plus Flipkart combined versus Google. So I think it's almost in multiples now.
Are you saying it's more than
It's more than
Google?
it's more than Google now. And when it comes to different media, I think there's a lot of real estate on the e-commerce platforms which brands need to leverage now, because there's video, there's search-based text ads, there are image ads, GIF images. You can do all sort of things which you could generally do on other publishing websites, but everything's now there on e-commerce. And the great thing is that if when the consumer is coming on the e-commerce website, he's already probably made a decision to make the transaction.
Yeah,
You're very, very close to that transaction. It's not that he's just,
Yeah.
It's not like shooting in the dark.
Yeah.
There's a relevant audience, the customer who has a high probability of going ahead and doing the purchase. So you're very close to the funnel.
Awesome. Vaibhav, you are India's largest e-commerce player. What are your thoughts? How are you seeing this?
Yeah, so it's definitely a change that we're seeing. Right? I think if you look at the overall landscape and how consumers today are starting their journeys, I think Dheeraj talked about it, Varun talked about it. The entire discovery itself is starting on e-commerce platforms. Right? What is the consumer doing after that? Then they're going in checking the ratings, they're checking the reviews. Right? They want to know what other consumers have actually, what the experience has been with that particular product. So it's very important for the brands, and I think Varun can quantify that, right? To stay honest, right? Because if you don't, it's all going to go up there, right? And as a platform, then we're obviously adding on a lot of different payment methodologies, right? And opportunities for them to kind of leverage on to complete that transaction. So consumers today, I mean, just some interesting data points, I think. For a brand, for a marketer, on e-commerce platforms, consumers are spending less than 10 minutes. Right? So very important as a marketer to be present across the funnel. Right from the first home page to your product page, it needs to be very, very crystal clear in terms of what is your value prop. Right? Vernacular, again, very, very interesting. Today, e-commerce is no longer just a metro phenomenon. Right? We're going deep into tier 2, tier 3 markets. Right? So vernacular is also a very, very important aspect for consumers. Today, a lot of them, new consumers who are coming onto the platform, prefer to transact in that language. Right? They choose that. The stickiness in vernacular is very, very high. So as marketers also, I think it's very, very important to understand where your consumers are moving, right? What are their behaviors, and accordingly, really customize your media plans to cater to that.
Okay, awesome. Actually, I want to dive a little bit more deeper into the media part. So, I think what we heard was, there's retail media or like where searches start beginning on Google, Facebook, or sorry, Amazon or Flipkart, more lower funnel. But let's talk about the more top funnel. How do what are we seeing in trends in the top funnel? Like, how are brands creating discovery, or creating interest, or influencing consumers to say, okay, come and look at me, buy my product? Do you guys want to share any insights on what are you seeing as for brands? What are they doing to sort of drive the top funnel? Like, just some touch points are that we were discussing earlier, which was, so there's social media, of course. There's a lot of influence happening from short video, voice. I believe voice has become a key player. Content, lots of people researching content before they buy their products. So content's become an influencer of sort. Influencers themselves, right? So there's influencers that are driving product sales. Retail media, more lower funnel. Connected TV or addressable TV, as Prasad was mentioning, and vernacular. So you guys could just share any sort of insights you can for the audience, like what are the sort of the key drivers in the top funnel or lower funnel? Any sort of insights or anything, anyone if you want to share.
I'll take a stab at that. We were working with a client where we were doing a lot of analytics work on e-commerce for them. And I think an interesting journey for a lot of clients to understand consumer behavior is rating and reviews. On rating and reviews, you get a lot of honest feedback from your customers as to what are they cribbing about for you, maybe your competition. And a lot of that actually becomes a great spin-off for running media campaigns at top of the funnel to drive more awareness about it. I'm talking about a large toothpaste brand, and I'm just going to give an example. They were competing in the child to dental care space, and they realized that blueberry was a flavor which their competition had rolled out. There were a lot of reviews and ratings on Amazon, Flipkart on blueberry flavor, and they didn't have it. They were one of the biggest brands. And they actually then decided to roll out the product, go into media to talk about blueberry specifically, and run top of the funnel campaigns so that they can drive traffic into Amazon, Flipkart's world for promoting blueberry. So I think that's a classic case of how you take feedback from consumers on e-commerce. Data is there, it's available. It's a matter of can you mine it and analyze it. Use that to link back to the consumer to drive him. It's a new product development option available, but also it's an option to drive users' interest back to a purchase behavior.
That's very interesting.
And I'll also take because first and foremost, a consumer, okay, when he's on the journey, he doesn't understand top funnel, mid funnel. Okay.
As marketers,
But you know what? There is interesting thing. The whole 5A model, where from aware to appeal to ask to act to advocacy. I think fortunately, unfortunately, at every stage, unlike the IDA model that you have talked about, consumer keeps coming back to the previous one and start again, right? That is where I think the mode of, in our parlance, the mode of upper funnel is always on. Okay, what sort of a question that he will ask when he's going to be aware are very different than when he's about to probably actually act. At the time of act, probably he would like to go to marketplaces and check whether what are the discounts are. But still he sees the reviews and goes back and changes the one. Okay, so it's a continuously on, wherein the content, the formats, the communication at the upper funnel has to be very different, and the ability of a marketeer, okay, to see where he is, okay, it starts making a lot of differentiating factor. That's what I feel.
Something to add again on this is what Dheeraj touched upon, ratings and reviews. I think in India, people value social validation in a big way. And if you want to buy something today, you will still ask a bunch of your friends, how's this product? Does it perform better than A? Or compare A to B. And I think ratings and reviews on e-commerce platforms really help consumers to make that decision. Few e-commerce platforms also offer bestsellers in the category. It's a very easy purchase decision now. Figure out the top 3 ones. If anyone is of your liking, just buy that one. And from a brand point of view, I think it is helping us in delivering a better customer service, because if there's a rating or if there's a review which talks about something negative, as a brand I'm concerned, because now that is visible to every other customer
Of course.
will,
Every other potential customer.
you know, it's not like somebody has put something on Twitter, because
Yeah.
most likely one mention on Twitter will not affect any
Correct.
other prospective customer. But on e-commerce, it will definitely affect. So we are very, very, strict about putting good operating processes and ensuring that there's consistent customer service and good customer service.
So let's just stay on that point for a minute. So consumer ratings, reviews, very important. It's very important for every brand. But now to do this at scale across various marketplaces, thousands of comments and reviews. How? I mean, just out of curiosity, is there a use of technology that helps, or is it manual, or is it a mix? So how are you, or is it an agency that helps? Like how does, not for you specifically, but in general for the brand universe? What are the? Are you seeing some emerging technology in that space?
Yes, so I think it used to be largely manual, but we have an expert sitting next to us. he can add more details on the technology which is available.
So we basically have a product called mScanIt, where we crawl to pick out how rating reviews are coming in continuously for you and your competition. Do a theming, do a sentiment scoring all automatically, so that you straight away know what are people saying about you and your competition. So definitely, I think data and technology play a key role, because this is not something which is possible manually. Different marketplaces have different structures of rating reviews. Some allow them, some don't even allow rating reviews, which means that standardizing them and then analyzing them becomes important. Otherwise, you're just wasting time on Excel sheets, and it doesn't help anyone.
Interesting. Okay. So you've discussed some media, how media has evolved around this. And I think one of the elements we missed in media was, there was a brilliant session by Spotify earlier about radio advertising. So of course that also is a medium. But anyway, coming back, so we discussed media, we discussed various different, the importance of ratings and reviews. Let's dive a little bit into payments. We've seen payments have evolved a big way in India, right? Like, so just rewind back right before the pandemic, or about 3 years, let's just say 3 years back. I was on a trip to China and I saw everyone was paying through QR codes, and I was like, when is that going to arrive in India? But today, that's a reality. It's here. It's like everyone's making payments through QR codes, UPI payments. The government's played a big role there. BNPL apps, buy now, pay later, microfinancing in a way. What are some of the trends that you guys are seeing around the payments infrastructure, and how has that boosted e-commerce in general?
So again, I can share some interesting data points here, right? UPI wallets, right? They're definitely powering a lot of consumers to buy, and of course through the pandemic, this has only accelerated further. Right? So we've seen a growth of around 2.5x to 3x in terms of UPI and wallet payments, and that's industry-wise. Right? I'm saying this is a study that we've done with Bain, and they had helped us understand this. However, cash continues to be the king.
Cash, COD, cash on delivery.
Cash on delivery continues to be the king, right? So at Flipkart, we've of course been the pioneers in building that.
That's right.
So there are a lot of new opportunities, as you're saying, but I think today still 25 to 40% of the transactions are cash on delivery. So okay,
Yeah.
right? It's come down,
Yeah.
but it's still the largest chunk there.
Interesting.
UPI
on delivery.
That's an interesting one, right? I'm not on top of that data point, but
Okay.
you definitely do see a lot of that also translating now.
And is this claim, maybe you have some of this data or not, but of course UPI played an important role in driving up, transactions, but has BNPL really made an impact? Because, we hear this big buzz around BNPL, fintech, or their that microfinancing is actually helping,
Yes.
is actually encouraging consumers to spend 1.5, 2x, 3x more.
Yeah, I think it's still evolving. It's new.
Evolving,
Right?
yes.
It's possibly not a very easy concept also for consumers to understand. So I think there's a cycle in terms of educating, making them understand what it is, right? But I think you would definitely see that increasing in years
I
to
think
come.
the RBI mandate of marketplaces not able to store credit card numbers is forcing a lot of people to actually end up being on BNPL, even if you don't really need the credit. So,
So if you don't mind, can you dive a little bit more into that? So what is the regulation?
So the RBI regulation says now is that marketplaces cannot store the credit card number on record, and that means that consumers, earlier it was simple, right? You go to Amazon, you are checking out, you already have a number stored, just put in your CVV and OTP and you're out, right? No one actually sees the credit card anymore. But now RBI says that you have to actually enter the full credit card number, and the expiry date and the name, and only then you can process it, which is a pain in the ass for everyone. Which means that BNPL makes sense because you basically put your card there and all transactions go into your BNPL and you pay from there. So even if you're not actually looking for credit, you actually end up using that. Again, a trend in shopping behavior pushed by RBI for this security principle. But I think again, the concept here is that I think going through data helps you in understanding how user behavior is, and shopper journeys really become very finicky and change very quickly. Looking at data gives you those answers, which I think is the key premise of e-commerce compared to an offline retail channel.
I mean, I think probably, as marketers, you think about consumer journey. We just discussed the IDA model and the other model that Prasad mentioned. But I guess like there is no specific defined model. I would say when you start looking at the data, you're looking at a million different journeys, so many different influencing factors, and it's just the mind. Like humans are complex, I imagine, right? So, okay, cool.
Just to add on the payments part, I think there's buy now pay later, but I think there's a good amount of focus on EMIs now.
EMIs.
Yes, because I think I'm seeing a 2x growth as a brand in adoption of EMIs, because now it's becoming more easy for people to pay in smaller installments and own products. And there's a lot of focus from the platforms, from banks, in terms of giving people easy EMIs.
That's interesting.
And I think the confidence level from a payments point of view, maybe RBI has put some regulations on e-commerce or marketplaces, but I think Google is doing the job otherwise. They put the whole thing in Chrome now. All your credit cards are in Chrome.
Yeah.
So you don't have to re-enter those cards. You
Yeah.
enter your CVV in Chrome, and then your card gets authenticated. Yeah. So, but I think there's a lot of trust amongst the consumers because of all these stringent guidelines that RBI has introduced. And as consumer, I'm more confident in putting my credit card number on an e-commerce platform, which I was not 5 years ago.
You make a very valid point. I think about 5-10 years back, that was a big concern. We were all discussing in these very rooms, how do we get more people to put in their credit cards online? Now that's gone up in a big way. Yeah, that's interesting. Prasad, any thoughts you want to share?
I think that's interesting. I think one of the very interesting, when I was thinking, when you were talking about it, I think the consumer journey is to be changed. Okay, there are multiple, RBI, hai, COVID, hai, there are a lot of external parameter technology is part of it, right? Okay,
Technology plays a huge role.
Technology, and I'll put payments as a part of the technology. Okay, but another, the beauty is that if you see, there are other layers which play. Okay, category, which category? Okay, so a few days back, I wanted to have some. I thought of buying, 5 black t-shirts. Okay, the way I behaved was very different at my age. Wherein really ordered 10, knowing that I will return 5.
Returns. That's another big problem. Sure.
Right? Just see, imagine, okay, the way things are changing, because for me it was take it and you don't return type, there's nothing. But you start the journey saying that you're going to return, 5 of those. So if you see, there are a lot of stuff which are playing there, okay, and it's a whole combination of everything, okay, which is delivery models. Somebody talking about delivery models, like 10 minutes. The way consumer change is very different. Why he wouldn't see 8 months back, McKinsey report talk about that consumers are buying lesser instances and bigger baskets when COVID happened. Remember, used to go and full few baskets will fill it. Suddenly 10 minutes is going to have, I want a Coke bottle, I'll just order. You see how fast we are.
Yeah, you can dunzo it, right?
Exactly. So there are lots of parameters are playing onto it. But at the end of it, if you just peel off everything and say that what that consumer journeys are, what are we looking for? We're looking for convenience, we're looking for price, we're looking for safety, we're looking for all that. But wherever those pointers change, suddenly a new consumer that we see. But ultimately, consumer at the bottom is the same.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, I think the consumer is a lot more entitled and empowered today than they were 10 years back. Like this thing that you just mentioned about buying 5 shirts and returning, buying 10 and returning 5. You wouldn't think about that 5 years back, 10 years back. You're like whatever. Like you make the right choice, and that's it.
But that also becomes accepted norm. Okay, just imagine.
Exactly. Earlier
5
it was not
years
accepted.
back, if I have, my mom will ask me, though I am a grown up, she will say, "Kyun return kar raha hai?"
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah, you're right.
Now my daughter tells me, "Papa, buy 10, you choose which 5 are good." And
It's a generation difference, you're right? Okay, that's interesting. So,
But it's also, I think, the consumer journeys are different for different categories.
sure, of course,
Which is also very, very important.
Yeah.
Right? So on electronics, for example, a user on an average browses at least 10 pages, right, before they actually buy a product. Right? Mobiles, I think it goes up to 15. Grocery, it's very different. It's
Yeah.
a basket building behavior.
It's more
You go
impulse.
in there, you buy,
Yeah.
you move out.
Yeah.
So obviously platforms are also evolving basis there. Right? And I think again as marketers, it becomes very important to understand what that journey is on the platform for yourself, right? So that you can again be available at the right touch points.
Awesome. So, okay, we took this. Sorry, you want to add something more?
I think one of the biggest baits that every brand use is having prices in e-commerce platforms lower than what is there in the trade. Because India is a very value sensitive, price sensitive market, and you see that across brands, especially in products, consumer appliances, that you have a separate series of products which are pretty much the same. They don't have any difference, maybe a difference of color or maybe knocked off of one useless feature which is not required, and they will price it cheaper on e-commerce platforms, and that acts as a good strategy to bring in the consumer for the first time on the e-commerce platform. And once he gets used to it, you can increase the lifetime value of the consumer.
Interesting. So, you're saying that some categories create a
Different line of products.
Yeah, different line of products, which is similar products, but with different brand and different pricing strategy, so that they're offline or online or separate.
But I think that's the easy bait, right? Something's cheaper on e-commerce, come there, do the transaction, and then we'll sell you something else.
Yeah, got it. Interesting. So, okay, we went into the how e-commerce, how shopper journeys have evolved from the past to the present. Let's do a little crystal ball gazing into the future. I think that should be a fun exercise. Now, all of us know that clothes are being purchased online. On the metaverse. I know I heard about people wearing shoes in the metaverse, which they're paying Gucci and all these large brands for big money. And I'm like, wait, you're just wearing this in the metaverse, and really you're paying top dollar for this? Anyway, so lots of interesting new future trends are emerging. Where do you guys see? Just any tidbits or interesting points you'd like to share.
I think we're seeing 10 minutes delivery for food. Not sure how that will taste, but I'm sure 10 minutes delivery for appliances and goods will be there, and products will be
10-minute deliveries for appliances.
Yeah,
wow.
There will be dark stores.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Crystal ball gazing. So cool. Do you foresee at any point people buying purifiers in metaverse? Like going in, maybe experimenting, trying the product, of course you can't drink the water there, but like
yes, that's the thing I was thinking.
Good point. Good point. But yeah,
I think data plays a key role in any decision which you do. We've learned this in digital marketing. All of ad tech, for example, is based on data. Right? I think e-commerce is the same thing, which is you have so much of data available. It needs to make sense. You need to do things differently from what you did for an offline retail experience, because you have the benefit of data and you can take a database decision. I think future is definitely going to change how retail happens because of this fundamental oil. Data is the new oil. Because a lot of those decisions become not just a gut feeling, but actually are measurable, calculable. Take a case of what the gentleman was talking about, that pricing is lower. Now, that's a theory. That's a gut call, and you know that from experience that okay, that's happening. But can data support that and evaluate that and say, okay, yes, price is low by 4.6% for me versus your competition? Absolutely, it's there. I think that's the future on e-commerce, of using data to take better decisions.
Interesting. So 10-minute deliveries, lots of data in the future. What's your crystal ball say?
It will be very difficult to say because the amount of changes are same. But what I think, sitting here and listening to all of you and looking a consumer in me, I think technology is going to be one of the most enabler there. Okay, to create convenience and experience for the consumer. Okay, that means if I really have to now look into future and say that where it is going, I think metaverse is going to be the next big changes. Okay, because it provides convenience, it provides accessibility, ownership, payment, everything. And someone has really thought about a perfect world. Now, how fast the technology can make it available, and how fast the brands will adapt to it, not just to say that we also have a meta store, okay, but actually that is the gap. And that's what one statement of my ad tech now here is that it's really got etched into my brain is that the the consumer drags marketers in future, and I think that is where it will happen. So metaverse is something that I will talk about.
Interesting.
True experiential convenience, enabled IT enabled.
So metaverse is two elements, right? So one is you can of course do the trials in the metaverse. Imagine like you want to buy a car and you can actually experience the entire car in the metaverse. So that's so it could work as a trial platform for larger products, I believe. I think it varies from category to category. But then I believe some companies are also starting to create products specifically for the metaverse, right? Like as you were mentioning earlier, purifier, let's say an offline purifier, brand separate, or not purifier, but any category, right? An offline and an online. But now there'll probably be offline, online, and then Meta, a separate product for Meta, which is just consumed in the metaverse. Right? It doesn't get out of the metaverse. So yeah, but so
just taking a little step back, metaverse, of course, I think is here, but in the immediate future, what are the trends that I think we definitely seen from a crystal ball? So, of course, the larger trends of social commerce, right?
social commerce,
Live
yeah.
commerce. I think in China, you just look a little east, 9 to 10% of GMV today is driven through live commerce, right? I think it is still out there. Whether that will work in India, it won't. But I think that's another interesting trend which will catch up, right? Of course, the social piece, video, vernacular, voice, the 3 V's that we've all been talking about for a long time. I think a lot of these will enable adoption, acceleration of commerce even more.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. Voice is a big thing, and I think we haven't still seen the influx of voice in a big way. But yeah, I mean, the younger generation chooses not to type; they choose to voice search.
Not only the younger, even the elders. Like, I mean, I see my mother,
Yeah,
right, and she's
easier.
more comfortable
Doing voice.
using voice than actually
Yeah.
typing
And
in.
then Amazon's got that too on Fire Stick too. So you now like just say what you want and it plays,
Yes.
right? Fire Stick.
Flipkart also has a voice-enabled assistant.
Awesome.
To help you with your shopping journey.
Cool. So I think with that, our time's up today. Thank you so much, guys. I think this was a great session. We don't have any questions, right? So I guess. Yeah, just connect with us offline if you guys have any questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you, Lavin. Thank you, everyone. I know this is one session where there are a lot of questions. I'm going to request you to please come together for a group photograph.